तव कथामृतं तप्त जीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमंगलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना. Let us conclude our discussion on Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual discourses during his visit to the devotees of Bada Bazar during their Annakut festival on 20th of October 1884. This appears in the second volume of the original Bengali version, Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita, 220, and in the Hindi translation 223, and in the Hindi translation it is in the second volume of the Sri Ramakrishna Bachanamrit, 203, that is second volume, 100th chapter and 3rd section, and under chapter 32 of the chronologically presented English rendering, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. After the discourses were over, Sri Ramakrishna was returning, and we have discussed that while returning, when the vehicle was stalled due to the crowd, Sri Ramakrishna mystically said, "Go forward." Normally it meant that please proceed forward across the crowd. But then he said in such a way people could understand it had a relation to his instruction that go ahead in the path of spirituality, forward and onward. There is no scope of self-complacency in our life, either in professional life or academic life, in the social life or spiritual life. We should never feel that we have reached the goal, end, we have nothing more to achieve. Even in the spiritual realm, what is normally understood, the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the Samadhi of the highest grade, is the end of spiritual realization. Swami Brahmanandaji says that I believe it is the beginning of spiritual realization. There is no end of our growth. So first we should have this idea in our mind that we should never feel that we have achieved enough, that there the life stagnates. Stagnation is death, expansion is life. We have to continuously expand, go forward, explore further ahead. That is a sign of life. A tree, as long as it is alive, it grows, it expands in branches, leaves, and when the growth is closed, then the tree decays and dies. So we should never end our curve of learning. We learn, we expand, we grow. In spiritual life, Similarly, we have higher and higher grades of realizations. We have seen that Sri Ramakrishna has explained this process of growth with a parable that there was a woodcutter who was cutting trees in a forest, and when a holy man came and advised him to go ahead, go forward, he was quite happy with the type of timber he was cutting and making a livelihood. Following the advice of this holy man, he proceeded further in the deeper forest, and to his dismay he found that there is a huge jungle of sandalwood which is much more costly than the ordinary timber. He was beside himself with joy that he didn't know. It's utter ignorance, because he was thinking that whatever he has, that is enough for him, that's all. So he proceeded further and he found this sandalwood. So there should not be a sense of satiation. In the spiritual realm, we shouldn't have contentment. We should have contentment in our worldly sense of the term, whatever we have. But it is the other way around in our life. A paradox. It's a tragedy. We feel that whatever spiritual blessings we have got, that is enough. It is more than sufficient. Whereas our worldly demands, worldly needs have a continuous increasing desire. So that appetite, desire, the intense longing for worldly prosperity takes us forward, but in a worldly sense. We are becoming more and more worldly and less spiritual. We have the drive, discontentment, but we have to check, investigate in which level we are having this atripti, discontentment. Thakur has said, go ahead, forward. We unfortunately implement this dictum in our worldly life. We have to attain higher degrees, we have to attain higher salaries, we have to attain bigger bungalows, better car, better amenities, larger number of friends, more power and position. We are proceeding forward, nevertheless, but in a worldly sense, and which drags us down and down to more of worldliness and less of a spiritual being. Our goal of life is not to become worldly. Our goal of life is to become spiritual. Why? Why should we be spiritual? Because all of us want to be happy. We want to be peaceful. And it is a proven fact, time-tested truth, that worldly prosperity, worldly enjoyments can never give us everlasting peace or happiness. Rather, it makes us more miserable, more restless, and further away from our goal to have peace and contentment in life. So it is a wrong interpretation of the text which is resulting in this tragic end of our life. We have to proceed forward in the spiritual way, because we want to become spiritual in order to become truly happy, truly peaceful. That cannot be catered, that cannot be served through worldly enjoyments. Worldly enjoyments summarizes succinctly expressed as the enjoyment of our sense organs with the contact of sense objects. That is the worldly enjoyment. That may appear, we may realize great joy at the beginning, but necessarily it will end up in endless suffering. So the wise people never get into this cheating affair. We are thoroughly cheated by the illusion of this world. So the scriptures, the saints and seers, the avatars call us away, recalls us to our right path, to go forward in our internal pursuit. We have two worlds, the external world and the internal world. We want to progress in the external world, but our goal should be settle down with the external environment to a stable position and then dive deeper and deeper within the internal world where the external sense organs do not operate. Nevertheless, we have one internal sense organ, Antarindriya, our mind. Man, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar. These are the four dimensions of our internal organ. The memory, the power of cogitation, the decision making, the ego. These are our internal organ, Antarindriya, Man. That should be implemented to dive deeper within, go forward and forward. So as we proceed forward, we get different dimensions of our spiritual life. As this woodcutter found sandalwood in place of ordinary timber, then he remembered the holy man did not tell him to end his journey on getting the sandalwood. Let me proceed further, deeper into the forest and find out what is therein. So he went deeper, and to his dismay he found a mine of silver. She was very happy and very rich, but he didn't end his journey either there. He gradually proceeded further and further, and next he found a gold mine, then a mine of diamond, then pearls, jewelries, unending treasure and wealth. So that quest is necessary in our life. Our spiritual life has become stagnant. We feel enough, we feel satiated, we feel satisfied. Yes, I have been initiated by the Guru, I have got the mantra, that is enough. I do regular japa and meditation morning and evening, and I feel very happy. My spiritual life is going very steadily. That's not going forward. Every day we have to step up our intensity of longing, our intensity of prayer. We have to strive harder and harder to make life more enriched in the spiritual realm. If we are doing a certain count of japa today, we should strive to increase and dive deeper within. It's not the number of hours that is important. It's the quality of our prayer, our intensity of longing, our concentration of meditation. If we strive, then greater quality of our spiritual life will be revealed, and definitely it will be compensated by equivalent spiritual realization. So this message should be implemented in our inner life to become a truly spiritual being and be true to our quest towards my goal, which is realization of God, which is loving God with this body and mind. Having said this, Sri Ramakrishna took the party forward towards returning of Dakshineshwar, and on the way he said to his companion Mahendranath Gupta, or M, or the composer of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, the need of renunciation in our life. Now the scriptures say, Tyage noike amritatva manashuhu. By renunciation alone, the immortality is attained. Now how that renunciation could be practiced in our day-to-day life, both for the sannyasin and for the householders, have been narrated, described and illustrated by Sri Ramakrishna. Here in this present instance, he is conversing with M. It's very interesting that he is showing the dual path, never to be found in the history of mankind, that a person is simultaneously an ideal sannyasin and at the same time an ideal householder, maintaining both responsibilities simultaneously and becoming the model of both the groups. By doing this, he is giving a uniform protocol of spirituality for both sannyasins and householders. It has not been said in the scriptures that this path of renunciation to attain the path of to attain the goal of immortality is restricted for the sannyasis, which is normally understood. Normally, the householders take a self-complacent stand. There's a renunciation is meant for sannyasins. We are householders. We are not supposed to do renunciation. We have the responsibilities in the life. That we are compromising and we are making a mistake. Sri Ramakrishna is correcting that the renunciation does not mean giving up hearth and home and retiring in a forest. Renunciation means to discharge the duties wherever we are, be it a sannyasin or a householder, the respective duties to be discharged to the fullest term, but at the same time to remain unattached. Renunciation means anasakti. There is no harm that a boat remains on water, in contact with water. The boat has to remain on water. Then only the boat can float. But if water enters in the boat will be drowned. So we may be in this world, interacting with the world. But if worldliness enters into us, then we get lost. So this entering of worldliness within us, getting attached to the worldly attractions, that is taking us away from renunciation. So that spirit has to be imbibed in our day-to-day life. How it can be done? Sri Ramakrishna is demonstrating, giving an illustration. In simplicity, The gist is, we should have as much as we require. Our bare minimum needs have to be completed, but nothing beyond. When we become attached, then our need becomes multiplied beyond the minimum quota, beyond the minimum standard. Our body definitely requires certain necessities, but that should be restricted to the minimum possible. Here, the demonstration Sri Ramakrishna is giving, his every action should be watched, noted, with minute details. Everything he did and said is for us as a model, as a demonstration. He needed a shirt, inner shirt, fatua. He needed an inner garment. He told his devotee, M., the recorder of the gospel, he was an intimate devotee. He was a householder. So he told him to bring a shirt for him, because he required one shirt. Now naturally, M, out of respect, that we all do, he brought a pair of shirts. When we require something, naturally the devotee will give something more. So he brought a pair of shirts, because if one shirt becomes torn, the second shirt is a standby. He brought with great devotion. Sri Ramakrishna said, I told you to bring one shirt. You have brought two. So if you store one now for future use, that will drag me away from my principle of renunciation. I cannot do it. We should compare our life. He is Bhagavan. He is God of the universe. There is no harm if you have the richest, all the riches of the world. We see in Venkateshwar temple, all the riches of the world are thrown in to God. He remains unaffected. But He has shown this life to us, because we should not think that when Lord Venkateshwara is having so much of riches, what is the harm if we have little? So the same God descends on earth as a human being to show what is to be done to align ourselves with God. We have to make a choice. Either we remain in the world or we remain in God. We wish to remain with God and don't want to give up the world. That is the dichotomy. We don't have to give up the world, but we have to give up the worldliness, that attachment. When you need one, have one, not two. You go back to your wardrobe today and find out whatever you have, is it all that necessary for you? Still then, we go on going to visiting the departmental stores and go on accumulating things. What not? All gadgets, garments, shoes, socks, everything. Because we are attached to the world. We need more and more. Much more than what we require. That is not renunciation. This is one example he is showing. But he felt hurt. Just see how sensitive he was. The devotee brought a pair. Now, if he refuses, then naturally the devotee will be hurt that his offering was not accepted. So he asks M, I needed one, I told you to bring one, you have brought two. What should you do? He didn't say, take it away. He didn't have any haughtiness of renunciation. That again most of us have. Tyage ahankar. Any type of ego should be shunned. Holy Mother Sri Sharadadevi says, it's very difficult for sannyasis to control this ego. They have the ahankar of their beauty, they have the ahankar of their gerua, renunciation, they have the ahankar of their closeness to God. That is the cause of their downfall. Any sort of ego takes us away from God. And because ego is a wall standing in between us and the divine, we are closest to the divine, only separated by this wall of ego. Less the thickness of this wall, less is our ego, closer we are to God. So Sri Ramakrishna does not bluntly refuse the gift. He asks softly, should you take it back? What should you do? Now the devotee is so intelligent, that is also necessary. The devotees and the monks, they should be complementary to each other. The devotee should ensure that the renunciation of the monks are maintained for their benefit. Because they would like to have lives of renunciation around them to get inspired, to become drawn to God. So M, being an ideal householder, he says, I will take it back gladly, because if you have some mental unrest due to this additional cloth, that will not be congenial for us. That will not be beneficial for us. If your mind is disturbed, then that will cause disturbance of our minds also. The shirt was brought to make you happy. So if one is enough, I will take it back gladly. And then Sri Ramakrishna says, if I need again, I will tell you. How nicely he convinces. So you should have this attitude, not bluntly put our point, but gradually make the person understand our way of life, so that he or she can see through our eyes and accept. So this is the training Sri Ramakrishna gives. Nevertheless, he did not compromise. He stuck to the principle of renunciation in order to show that is the way of life. So then he sees a lot of shops. But everybody was spendthrift. They are not spending any money. He says, why don't you pay a price and purchase a small item? The people have money, but they are attached with money. They cannot spend. They try to hoard the money. So accumulation of things or money, that tends to make us attached with the worldly things and takes us away from God. He says here, without mentioning the name of the devotee, he invited one devotee to one of the congregations. But the devotee declined, frankly saying, in order to go there, the transportation fare will be 1 anna, 4 pies. In those days, 1 rupee is to be divided into 16 parts, making 1 anna each, and in 64 parts, making a pice or a penny. As a dollar or a pound, divided into pennies. So a dollar has 100 pennies to make a dollar. So 1 penny was equivalent to a pice in our olden currency, and 64 of those pies made 1 rupee. So only 4 pies was necessary for the tram fare the devotee declined. Now Sri Ramakrishna says, so much of attachment with wealth takes us away from the path of God. So a devotee has to make good use of his wealth. They are permitted to earn, but earning for hoarding is denounced. So the path of renunciation is equally applicable for the sannyasins and householders. The sannyasins have to have this path of renunciation both externally and internally, where the householders have to maintain this internally, while externally they have to behave in tune with the society. Internally they should not have this attachment. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, who will not hoard wealth? Who will not store? Who are the people? Shanchay korbe na panchi aur darvesh. A bird does not hoard things. He works on the day-to-day routine. And darvesh, the sannyasins, the wandering monks, they will not store things. They will depend on the will of God. God will take care of them. But that's not the dictum for the householders. They have to make provisions for the livelihood of the dependents. But then that far, when the livelihood of, the householders have to determine the limit of their family responsibility. They have certain responsibilities, but not unlimited. They have some dependents. The dependents are dictated by the normal norms. When you made a health insurance, they will tell you who are your dependents. The legal dependents. They should be taken care of. But once the provision for the dependents are made, your responsibility ends. But we get attached. We don't end our responsibility. Not only take care of our spouse and children, we go down to our grandchildren, to our friends, to our distant relations, whomsoever we think our kith and kin. We make a self-created, extended family and then get involved more and more. There's an end to it. The question should be asked, don't you have a responsibility for yourself? You feel so much responsible for others. How about yourself? When will you reach the goal of your life? You have done enough for your own life. You have made sufficient provision for your dependents. Sometimes there are no dependents at all, but still then we get involved, unnecessarily being attached. That's not the way for householders either. The goal of life is to realize God irrespective of wherever we are. Every human being is capable and competent to realize God, provided he or she is serious about it. There is enough of illustrations and sermons given in the books and the lives of saints and seers. Isn't enough that we hear and forget, but whatever we hear has to be cogitated and then implemented. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Shravana is hearing or reading, that the knowledge or learning is acquired. Then Manana is cogitation. We must think about it, analyze, try to enumerate and then implement in our day-to-day life. then only it will become useful, or else it is a waste of time. Our life has to be changed, life has to be oriented, and we should have a constant drive to go forward, onward. A desire should be there, intense desire should be there to go deeper within, intensify our journey. We many times think that the goal is uncertain. How long will it take to reach the goal? In the scriptures and in the Naradavati Sutras, you say, Tibra Sangveganat Asannaha. The goal becomes imminent by increasing the intensity of our journey, our travel. If we increase the speed, the same distance can be covered in less time. So you have to evaluate. A lot of time has been wasted, and whatever time is available, that can be utilized by intense longing. We are not here to get attached with the worldly achievements or worldly pleasures and waste our valuable this human life. This human life is the greatest gift of God, to interact with Him. With this body and mind, in this environment, in this world, in this life, great opportunities getting fizzled out of my list just for our negligence, carelessness. Let us not worry about the past. Let us not think of our future. Let the entire energy, attention, concentration be implemented on the present to step up our acceleration, our speed towards the goal of spiritual end, making the worldly achievements secondary details. We are not here to make a career anymore. We have to make a spiritual career, not a worldly career. The recognition, the praises, they are all but secondary, temporary. They keep clapping today and forget about it tomorrow. On the sand of time, you are forgotten very quickly. We tend to make our name and fame glorious, but neither we have this body, nor this name, nor this form. It's a temporary abode. This body and mind is a temporary abode for us to reach the goal. It's like a vehicle. We have boarded a car to reach to a destination. If the car is glorified, that adds nothing to us. We should make use of the car to reach the goal. We should make use of this body and mind to reach to the glorious destination of our life, to meet God. God is waiting for us with arms open, that when my beloved will come, we should respond. We should respond by implementing the spirit of renunciation in our life and cutting down our necessities. More you increase your necessity, more you have to strive to achieve that, to accumulate that, to maintain that, and your valuable time is wasted. So the necessities of our life should be made as minimum as possible, so that we can utilize the remaining amount for our spiritual life. We complain we have so much work, but we unnecessarily increase our work. We have to be vigilant. We have to have a vigil, constant inward justification make a serious attempt. And when you make this attempt, even the journey becomes enjoyable. We say that when we reach God, it will be a very glorious, enjoyable time. But when we proceed, the journey is itself an enjoyable experience. Sri Ramakrishna says that those who are intoxicant, those who are drug addicts for hemp, ganja, or those who take a drink of siddhi, that gives intoxication. But while making the preparation of that siddhi or the ganja, the person becomes very, very happy, because this he has not yet achieved, he has not yet drunk it. In the process, he becomes happy. Similarly, when a person sincerely calls on God, gets deeply attached in this path, even before achieving the goal, that search gives a tremendous joy in the heart. That is also a type of anand. So there is one Vishaya Anand, the enjoyment of the essential world, worldly enjoyments, which is limited, which ends up in grief, in which we are all mostly get attached. Our goal is to have Brahmanand, the joy of God, in between, when we come away from the worldly pursuits and proceeds to the goal of spirituality, then we get the enjoyment of Bhajananand, Kirtananand, the joy of spiritual pursuit. There is a higher kind of joy, much more intense than the worldly pleasures. But the illusory Maya, the delusion, the ignorance, does not permit us to peep into ourselves and taste this unspeakable joy of even Sadhananand. When we repeat the name of God, we enter into meditation. There is joy. When we repeat the name of God, there is a joy, much higher kind of joy. The taste of pudding is in the eating. So Sri Ramakrishna is inviting the devotees through these incidents to this glorious journey of God realization by a continuous drive forward and making our life as unattached as possible in the worldly sense, and as deeper and deeper possible in our internal quest of spirituality. We continue further in our next Sunday class.